Hello and welcome to another episode of Naked Truth. We are continuing our discussion on the scams of tithing, and today we are going to probably do the last in this series. But before we go into that, I would like to thank all our subscribers, the old ones and the new ones that have joined recently. I thank you for being here, and I thank you also for liking what we do. If you haven't done so and you would like to support us, please also do subscribe so that you don't miss any of our videos. In today's episode, we are looking at who are the beneficiaries of tithe. In the last 4 episodes, we have seen that Abraham did not pay any tithe as churches claim. We've seen that Jacob did not pay any tithe. We have seen that tithing is entirely a Jewish law applicable to Jewish people. We've seen also that tithing was never about money, but only about the produce of land in Israel, not land anywhere else. Now, despite all that, just assuming that tithe is payable, who is it payable to? Who is the beneficiary, or who are the beneficiaries of tithing, of tithes? Who are entitled to collect tithes? This is the topic of our discussion today. Who are the beneficiaries of tithe? Now, please bring your Bible to go with us into the discussion. According to the Bible, there are 3 types of tithe and 3 beneficiaries or recipients of tithe. 3. The first one, or the first beneficiaries of tithe, are the tithers themselves. I can call this the people's tithe or the tithers' tithe. The second group of beneficiaries are the Levites. The Levites, one of the supposed tribes of Israel, members of this particular tribe. You will see the reason for that soon. These are the second group of beneficiaries. And the third group of beneficiaries are the priests, ordained priests of Yahweh. Ordained priests in Judaism. These are the 3 beneficiaries of tithing. And we're going to examine the law or the rules governing these 3 groups of people. Now, the first and most important tithe is called the people's tithe, or the tithers' tithe. It's the most important because it's the most frequent. It was paid every year. It was a yearly tithe. So the Israelites were required by law, by the Jewish law, to take to Jerusalem a tithe or a tenth of their farm or animal produce every year for a communal feast with their families, their friends, relations, neighbors, and even the strangers in their midst, and the Levites in their midst as well. This tithe, this 10% yearly tithe, was not given to any priest or any Levite, but it was taken to Jerusalem by the families, by the tithers themselves, for consumption with their families and friends. The people's tithe, payable every year. Deuteronomy 12, 6-12. Deuteronomy 12, 6-12. It says, "There in Jerusalem Bring your burnt offering, your sacrifices, your tithes, and special gifts, what you have vowed to give, and your free will offerings, and the firstborn of your herds and flocks. There, in the presence of the Lord your God, in the presence of Yahweh your God, you and your families shall eat and shall rejoice in everything you have put your hand to, because Yahweh your God has blessed you. You take your tithe to Jerusalem along with other offerings, and there, in the presence of Yahweh, you shall eat the tithe. Deuteronomy 14, 22 to 23. Deuteronomy 14, 22 to 23. It says, be sure to set aside a tenth of all that your fields produce each year. Eat the tithe of your grain, new wine, and olive oil, and the firstborn of your herds and flocks, in the presence of Yahweh your God, at the place he will choose as a dwelling for his name, so that you may learn to revere the Lord your God always, or to revere Yahweh always. Eat the tithe of your grain, new wine, and olive oil, and so on. Eat, consume it yourself. It doesn't say give it to anyone. It doesn't say give it to any pastor, or give it to any church, or even give it to any priest or Levite. It says eat, consume it. So it was a communal feast for the people to celebrate, to rejoice, as a remembrance of the fact that according to their belief, Yahweh gave them that land. And that land produced food and animals, and they will eat this in the presence of Yahweh to rejoice and to remember and to revere Yahweh. They were not giving this yearly tithe to anybody. I've never had any pastor tell people, bring your tithes and offering and consume it yourself with your families. Have you heard that before? Do they not see these verses? They'll close their eyes to these words. Now the second tithe is called, or was called, the Levites' tithe, or if you like, charity tithe. It is for the Levites and for the purposes of charity. It was a tenth of farm and animal produce every third year. Every third year. The people's tithe was every year, but in the third year, then they would take this tithe and give for the benefit of the Levites and the needy. It was Levites and for charity. Deuteronomy 14, 28 to 29. Deuteronomy 14, 28 to 29. Every 3 years, bring the tithes, the tenth of the produce of your land and livestock, and store it in your towns for the benefit of the Levites, the fatherless, the widows, strangers, people basically with no access to land, who could not farm. The Levites of all the tribes in Israel, according to their story, were not landowners, were not inheritors of any of the land, and therefore had no farm. Their job was to minister in the temple and synagogues in the service of Yahweh, and therefore they couldn't farm. Every 3 years, the tithe will go to them, and then what is left over from their own consumption will be for the benefit of the needy in their society. Quite a good thing if you ask me. Deuteronomy 26 verse 12. Deuteronomy 26:12. When you finished setting aside a tenth of all your produce in the 3rd year, the year of the tithe, you shall give it to the Levite, the alien, the fatherless, and the widow, so that they may eat in your towns and be satisfied. They call this 3rd year the year of the tithe because it's the year they give this 1/10 to this 10th of their produce away to the Levites, away to the needy, away to the fatherless, the motherless, the widows, and the strangers. It was a welfare tithe kept in storehouses in the synagogues for the upkeep of the Levites and other people in need. Pastors are not Levites. Any pastor who claims he's a Levite is a liar and a thief. A pastor isn't a Levite. Levites are the tribes of Israel that were dedicated to the service of Yahweh in the synagogues and the temple. The churches are not temples of Yahweh. The synagogues and the churches are not synagogues of Yahweh. And the pastors of the church and the men and women of God of the church are not ministers of Yahweh. They belong to a different religion. Christianity is not Judaism. No one can take the place of the Levites, and no one other than the Levites can act as Yahweh's priests or ministers. Even in the Bible, it makes it clear that nobody can take the place of these people. Nobody in Israel could take their place. Numbers 18:22-24. Numbers 18:22-24. This was the law laid down by Moses. It is very clear. It says nobody else could take the place of the Levites, and only the Levites who would minister, and only them could accept the tithe of the people brought to Yahweh, or brought to the tent of meeting for the maintenance of these Levites. Go to Numbers 3. Numbers 3. Numbers, the book of the Bible, Numbers, chapter 3. Go through the chapter. It says that only Aaron and the descendants of Aaron are dedicated to be priests of Jehovah, of Yahweh. Only the descendants of Aaron. Aaron was the brother of Moses. Only his descendants were entitled or qualified to act as priests of Yahweh. I'm not sure how any pastor in Africa or in Europe or in America or in Asia, in South America, or anywhere in the world, in the Middle East, how they could claim to take the place of Levites when they were not descended from Aaron, and when they were not ministers of Judaism, of Yahweh. Leviticus 10:1-2 gives a demonstration of the strictness of this rule, that nobody could take the place of Levites. And nobody who isn't ordained as a priest of Yahweh could act as a minister of Yahweh. Aaron's two sons in that passage, Leviticus 10:1-2, his two sons ventured into the tent of meeting, into the worship place, and officiated or purported to officiate as spirits when they hadn't been ordained or anointed to do so, and they were instantly struck dead on the spot. These were the sons of Aaron, whose descendants were supposed to be the priests. But these sons were not yet ordained or anointed, and therefore they could not. And they attempted to act, and the Bible said they were killed instantly. What qualifies a pastor in Africa to collect tithe made for Levites, made for priests of Yahweh? Who anointed them priests of Yahweh? And they said, touch not my anointed, and do my prophets no harm. Which are who's anointed? When did Yahweh anoint them? So, in Judaism today, because of this strict rule, they do not collect or request the collection of this tithe, because there are no more Levites in their midst. The tribe of Levites are gone. In fact, all the tribes of Israel have dispersed and gone. Yeah? And therefore, they said nobody could, because if you do that, you are committing a cardinal offense. So by this law, the pastors who are collecting tithe and eating tithe, made for Levites, made for priests of Yahweh, are thieves and deserve to die, according to what the Bible they carry says. Go back to Leviticus 10:1-2, and go back to Numbers that I cited earlier, Numbers 3. No pastor, no priest, or so-called man of God has a right. And they will tell you, well, tithing was before the law because Melchizedek, that Abraham paid tithe to Melchizedek, and they will tell you we are priests in the order of Melchizedek. And they will cite Hebrews 5-7. I'll tell you, I discussed this before. Melchizedek, Abraham did not pay any tithe to Melchizedek. Go back to my previous video on this, that Abraham did not pay tithe. In any case, Melchizedek was not a priest of Yahweh. He was a priest of El, a Canaanite deity who, by the reckoning of the Bible, was a pagan priest. He was a king of Salem and a priest of El. And El was, of course, a Canaanite god. The third one and the last one was the priest's tithe. The priest's tithe. And this was the tithe paid by the Levites from the tithe people paid to them to the priests. Now remember, not every Levite is a priest. It's a priestly clan, but some of them have been ordained priests. Others work in the temple, others work as ministers in different roles. Now, so from the tithe collected, the once every 3-year tithe given to the Levites, they were required to pay a tenth to the priests. Numbers 18:25-28. Numbers 18:25-28. The Lord said to Moses, or Yahweh said to Moses, speak to the Levites and say to them, when you receive from the Israelites the tithe I give you as your inheritance, you must present a tenth of that tithe as the Lord's offering, your offering will be reckoned to you as grain from the threshing floor, or juice from the winepress. In this way, you also will present an offering to the Lord from all the tithes you receive from the Israelites. From these tithes, you must give the Lord's portion to Aaron the priest, and of course the successors to Aaron the priest. So this tithe is no longer again paid today because there's no more priest. And pastors are not allowed or entitled to collect this tithe. They are not priests of Yahweh. They are not part of Judaism. They belong to a different religion. The church is not the place of tithe. The church is not the place of tithe. The people's tithe, the yearly tithe, was only to be taken to one place. And that one place was Jerusalem, in the temple in Jerusalem. That was the place where the Bible says that Yahweh has chosen to place his name. And the people would take their tithe to this particular place, nowhere else. Deuteronomy 12, 4-7. Deuteronomy 12, 4-7. You must not worship the Lord your God in their way, i.e. in the way of those in Canaan that were displaced by the Israelites. But you are to seek the place the Lord your God will choose from among all your tribes to put his name. For his dwelling. To that place you must go. There bring your burnt offerings and sacrifices, your tithes and special gifts, what you vowed to give, and your freewill offerings, and the first fruit of your herds and flocks. There in the presence of the Lord your God, you and your family shall eat and shall rejoice in everything you put your hand to, because the Lord your God has blessed you. This tithe, Jerusalem, the temple, was the only place to take the yearly tithe. Nowhere else. Deuteronomy 12, 13-14. It says, be careful not to sacrifice your burnt offerings anywhere you please. Offer them only at the place the Lord will choose in one of your tribes, and there observe everything I command you. And the place chosen according to the Bible was Jerusalem. So for the people's tithe, they must take it to Jerusalem. That's the place of tithe. And where Jerusalem was too far for the people, and because of that it would be cumbersome or difficult to carry farm produce or livestock to the place, it says they can use money. They can sell their livestock and their farm produce and then take the money to Jerusalem. When they get to Jerusalem, they will then buy farm produce or livestock from around there and then use it to celebrate as tithe in Jerusalem. Deuteronomy 14, 24-27. The other tithe, the 3-yearly or the triennial tithe for the Levites, that one could be given in the synagogues or in the towns where people lived. But that was for the Levites. It's not for the church. Churches are not synagogues, and pastors are not Levites. Churches are not the temple of Jerusalem. And because the temple of Jerusalem has been destroyed, till today, the Jews who own the law of tithe do not collect this tithe. So why would pastors and churches be collecting something that even the Jews themselves are afraid to collect? They refuse to collect. In conclusion, let's wrap up what we've discussed. The first is that the two-thirds, most of the tithe in the Bible belonged to the people who bring the tithe. It is for the people to consume it. 2/3 of the tithes belong to the people. Yeah? Then the rest of the tithe, 1/3, belongs to the Levites. And then the Levites, from what they received, will give 1/10 to the priests. That's none for the church or for the pastor. Second conclusion is that the conditions for the collection of tithes by Jews no longer exist. The tribe of Levites are gone. The promised land is not there anymore. So-called promised land isn't there anymore. The Levites are not there anymore. The priests are not there anymore. The temple is not there anymore. For this reason, Jews do not collect tithes anymore. Those who are so minded, what they do is to give 1/10 of their income to charity only, not as tithe as the Bible prescribed. Tithes are not for Christian churches. The churches are not the temple of Jerusalem, and the churches are not the synagogues. It's unlawful for pastors to collect tithe because they are not Levites, they are not the priests of Yahweh, and they can never be. As a matter of fact, they belong to a different faith. A faith that says that the Jewish law is obsolete and no more applicable. Well, thank you very much for watching. If you like the video, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and help us to grow the channel. Until I see you again, please share the video. Yeah, your comments are welcome. Have a blessed time. Bye-bye.